Hello everyone, welcome to Ring Diaries here at Church of Uganda Family TV with me Fiona Mboa, where we talk about everything and anything to do with marriage. Any discussion that you want, you can find it here at Ring Diaries. And we bring real people to share real experiences about marriage and also to see how we can make your marriage better. This evening I am hosting Mary Matama. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
And Mary has been married for 4 full years. Very full years, 4 years. You're very welcome again. And we're going to handle a topic of supporting your spouse through grief. Now, there's some topics that we don't talk about because as Ugandans, first of all, we are supposed to be quite tough. Like anything should, whatever happens, we're supposed to just walk through it. Yeah. But some of these things are actually putting our marriages down. Some of these things are putting us down as individuals. And today we're going to share just about how do you support your spouse through grief. Mary, again, thank you very much for your time and for coming. And just for us to understand, by virtue of the topic, that means your husband went through some grief that you had to support him through.
Yeah, that's true. So in 1 year, well, it was barely a year after we had been married, in December 2020, my husband lost his big brother. Okay. But you see, there are people who die. Okay, all life matters, but then when someone is an anchor of the family, you know that person where when you fight with mommy, after we've grown, when you fight with mommy, you're like, I'll tell him, he will handle. When you fight with daddy, you're like, I'll tell him, he'll handle. So I guess it's just who I am. When there's a crisis, my reaction is not flight, it's fight. So I will be there. If you have a problem, Fiona, I will be there. If all is well, I'm not a fair weather friend. So if all is well, it's okay. You can go and hang out. You don't have to call me. But if you lost someone, for example, I will be there. So now when... so this story starts, I even know the dates.
Wow.
On 26th November 2020. Yes, 2020. We were working from home. Okay. It was that time of COVID, open, close. I don't remember. We were not locked down. I think we just had curfew at that time. So we used to live in Naria, and I get a call. It's raining heavily, 1 p.m. lunch break.
I can remember all that.
Yes, from my father-in-law. And he says, Maria, where are you? I said, it was strange. I said, I'm home. He said, stand up. And I stood up. But like the way he said it, the tone in which he said stand up, I got up. I just stood up. He said, I need you to go to Naguru Hospital. Isaac has had an accident and it's not looking good. I need you guys to go. Good thing my husband and I were at home. We used to work next to each other like this. Like COVID was good. So I just turned and said, Daddy has said, this is what's happening. We need to go. I get into the car. We go and drive to Naguru, China. What is that hospital called? What used to be... it's Naguru Hospital.
Friendship Hospital.
Yes. So I go, we reach. First of all, I called ahead. I called someone who I knew worked there. I said, I'm looking for so-and-so. They told me he has been brought there. He's had an accident. Because in my head, I'm like, is he dead? And he's just not telling us that he has died. So he said, no, that person is here. Let me call, and they go and attend to him. So we arrive. You know how hospital can be. Accident victims, accident and emergency is the worst part of the hospital. Yeah. We go. He's been, so he's not talking. He's semi-conscious. He's just groaning. He's on that hospital bed with no bed sheets, no nothing. And they put a bucket. They put cotton in his nose and a bucket, and he's bleeding out into a bucket. So when I arrived, because I had called ahead, now people had started to attend to him. Then they send us for a CT scan. So I am with my husband, but everyone has frozen. So I'm like, things have to move. So they send us for CT scan. Naguru, of course, has no CT scan. They said, go up the road to Ruby Hospital. I asked, is there an ambulance? He said, we have called one, but it might take hours before coming. Do you have a car? I said, yes, I came in a car. Then he said, put him in your car and take him. I'm like, this man, how can he see it? Then he says, we suspect that the damage is on his upper body. We think his lower body is fine. So put him in the car. So I go to bring the car. As I'm coming.
With a nurse or just...
Alone. So when we were coming to bring the car, an ambulance came. It had brought a patient. So I had my husband in the car and I just told him, like, in this moment, I was in charge. I just said, make sure that ambulance doesn't leave us. Because when ambulance comes into the hospital, you move your car. So I had to reverse backwards for the ambulance to drop wherever it has dropped. And I just told him, make sure that ambulance doesn't leave us. Talk to that man, because if there's an ambulance, we can't take him. So it had come from Mukono. So a guy's like, oh, I'm in a hurry, I'm going to do what? We're like, no, we're going up the road, just come with us. So we put him into the ambulance. They help us put him into the ambulance. Like, his wife arrives around in the middle of all that confusion. I just tell her, get into the ambulance. We are going up the road. We reach Ruby, and they receive us because the ambulance guy needs to go. But they refuse. They direct the ambulance to park, and they refuse to take the person out until we have paid.
Wow.
So I ran out of the ambulance. Paid day was 25th. I just went and swiped my card. Like, here, just do what you need to do. But now everyone at Ruby's, when like family started to congregate, they came, we did the CT scans, and now we have to decide, where are we taking him? Are we taking him? What hospital are we going to? That ambulance man was so gracious because he waited. They did the scans. He waited for us to decide where we're going, and we go to IHK. So that ride. So everyone is getting into cars, and I'm like, who is sitting in the ambulance with a patient? So I end up in the ambulance with the wife and him. But you've driven through industrial area, 5th Street, the potholes in that place. In an ambulance, it's now coming to 5. We've been at this from 1 p.m., now it's coming to 5. So there's traffic. Have you ever been, by the way, I respect ambulances. If I hear that siren, I'll get out of the way. Because it doesn't matter whether they're carrying charcoal or a patient. But if there's an actual patient in there, every minute counts. So we go. I don't know if that's how all ambulances are, but the bed seemed not to be fastened properly. And so it kept, every pothole we hit, he kept moving and he kept groaning. You know when someone groans in so much pain. He kept groaning. And her and I now sat and just pushed the bed to the wall, such that it's firm when we hit potholes. We arrive at IHK. They are very helpful. They put him into accident and emergency, and we spent 1.5 hours, nothing happening. So eventually, I'm like, guys, because now he starts to throw up, and if someone has had brain damage, that's a very bad sign. So they are like, eventually one of the nurses tells me, remember we're right in the middle of COVID. ICUs had been separated into COVID and then COVID. He was bleeding through his nose and mouth. There's no way to swab and test for COVID. But they were not saying. So everybody was just, what do we do? So they had just left him there. So because if he had COVID, you had to take him to a COVID ward. If he didn't have COVID and you take him there in that position, you are just sentencing him to death. So eventually they said the only way is to do a chest scan of his lungs to see. Now he's not conscious, he can't see it, he can't. So, but now family has come. So his brothers enter the x-ray room with him. But hospital, my God. And the x-ray his chest, and they said, okay, we are taking him to the ICU. However, you need to deposit 5 million because that's the average cost of a day in the ICU. We are not doing anything before you do that. By this point, my money is finished. So I just come back and tell everybody I need money. ask the wife, how much money do you have? How much money do you have? Everybody just give me all the money I have. So that's how now I become as if the treasurer for this whole thing. Everyone is sending money to me, my phone, my bank account, I deposit, I pay, we get admitted. He'd had a crack on his skull. But 3 days later, he was awake. He was awake, he was talking. A week later, they sent us to the ward.
Okay.
And I'm asking the doctor, what does it look like? Neurosurgeon comes. Said there's a crack, but it will
go back.
It will go back. It will self-heal. The brain is not swollen, so he'll be fine. He was coherent. We were talking. He was teasing us. He was saying, so we'd be forcing him to eat. So my husband and I were in hospital every day. Every single day I'd arrive and tell the wife, take a walk, go do something. We'll handle until you come. So she would come back later, spend the night. We go home. And because I didn't see anybody who knew what to do at that time,
You took charge.
I took charge. Every morning when I would arrive at the hospital, the kids in the family call me Auntie Backpack. I had those small backpacks where, like, if you gave me money, all my receipts, everything was in my backpack, and it was always on my back. When I arrived in the hospital in the morning, I'd first go and reconcile and say, but when did we take this? When did we take this? Take this off the bill. Adjust. I come back. Have you adjusted? Yeah. So I was managing that. Then I would go back to the family group and say, so guys, this is where we are. We need some more money. Give updates. Oh, he's okay. He's talking. He ate today. We are fine. And then 2 weeks. So that was from 26th November. We are in hospital 2 weeks. Meanwhile, I'm working from hospital.
Working from home, so now
You're now working from hospital. I would show up, set up my laptop, and start working. And if anything was needed, I would get up, go check on nurses, check on doctors, do everything. But as working. So 10th.
2 weeks in 2 years, 10th.
Yes, 10th December was a Thursday. We arrive as usual. I was even doing exams. So I had a paper that day. There's a day I didn't go to hospital. I think it was Wednesday or Thursday. But now he was physically, he looked okay. They had given him compression socks. They was doing physio. He would walk around. The kids would call. He would talk to them on video, because in the beginning we were afraid that seeing his face like that. Yes. But now his face was very clear. They would say, it's like, I'm in hospital, but I'm coming. However, when he got the accident, I think the meat here like this had gotten off. So they needed to graft. Okay. So the doctors say, what is left is cosmetic. The rest we have dealt with. The brain will heal, the skull will close, but we need to graft, get some meat and put it back here. So that the day I didn't go to hospital, he had a surgery to just do that. And they told us his palm will be darker than usual, because of course if you're getting from here to put here,
but it will be okay.
But it will be okay. It will be functional. He has that operation. It goes well. We are fine. Next day we come to hospital. We are watching TV. Then I noticed TV was agitating him. Tired Ugandan politics. So I'm just like, you know what? Let's just do away with the TV. We put music. We start playing music. He's singing. Then when we arrive, we tell the wife, okay, you were here the whole of yesterday. No relief. You go. We'll handle. We'll take it from here. So she goes. It's just me and my husband. Then he starts to say, I'm so cold. We cover him. I'm really, really cold. He's shaking. Call the doctor. We call the doctor. So me, I start Googling. I Google everything. So I'm like, what happens when a patient is feeling very cold? And they're saying, Google. If you Google your your symptoms, they'll tell you you're going to die. You have cancer. So of course the results are not good. He asks to speak to his friend, because the doctor who did that graft was his friend. He asks us to call him. We call him. But when we call him, he doesn't ask him anything medical. He says, oh, how are you? How is your day? It's Friday. Oh, is this your day off? You're not in hospital. They talk normally. That doctor gets off the phone And then he says, Maria, come give me something. So I get, he first said, I'm feeling like there's something in my throat. Get me sweet Pepsi or something. At that point, David was outside my husband was outside on a call. I told him, that when he comes back, I'll go get whatever I want to get. Then he says, okay. Then he sends me for something else, which he thought was in the bathroom, but was right under the bed. So I bent to get it, and the next time I look at him, he's convulsing. I start to scream. I'm now alone in the room. David is right outside the door. I can hear him, but I can't see him. He's on call. Of course, when I start screaming, he comes in. He also starts screaming, Isaac, because he's also, but because of the doctor he had called, the doctor had asked the doctor to come and check on him. And so there's a doctor right behind David, and she sees him, and she shouts, "Code blue." In the hospital. It was like a Grey's Anatomy scene. From then on, code blue, they do those CPR, chest compressions, they are injecting anticonvulsant on the vein on the legs, and then they tell us, get out. But like the whole hospital descended onto the room, and they got us out of the room. It's just the two of us. Now I have phone calls to make. I have to call the wife because now I don't know what's happening. So I'm just like, this is what's happening. We call the mother, we call the father. My husband is pacing up and down the corridor. He, at some point, just sits on the floor. And I'm just like, okay, let's get out of the way so that the doctors can work. 45 minutes later, the doctor comes. You know, when a doctor comes from the room, we're all looking at her like, yes. And then she says, he has a strong heart. We are doing everything we can. I have gotten back a pulse. Keep praying. Let's try to take him to ICU because now we're back on the ward. So they take him. They wheel him out. The hospital is just, they wheel him out, take him to ICU. We go down to ICU. A few minutes later, she comes back and tells us, also, he convulsed again in the lift. But now that we are here, we are going to put him on all the machines. So they called a neurosurgeon. No one knows why it has taken a turn. Yes. Because that day when the doctor came in, I asked, so when are we likely to leave? He said, right now we are only treating these ones. By Wednesday, you should be home. That night, like now everyone comes to hospital. We were like 10 people in that wardroom because no one could leave without knowing what's happening.
To understand what's happening.
And they let us. They called a neurosurgeon. They did a brain scan. And there's no brain activity. And the doctor said, we can keep him for as long as you want us to keep him. But he's not going to wake up. His heart is pumping because he's on adrenaline. His blood pressure is like that because we are pumping things in his brain is dead. They called another one. He said, let's do one final confirmatory test. Let's check for electrodes. If there's even the slightest brain activity, we'll keep him on. So now Saturday morning is when we did that test. And then now, ICU is very, very restricted. But when I was walking in the corridor, because now I'd been in the hospital for 3 months, one of the nurses looked at me and said, I'm so sorry. I looked at her, I'm just like,
why are you sorry?
Why are you sorry? I've been here for coming to 3 weeks now and you've never been sorry. Why are you sorry? But when we reached ICU, they said everyone come in, and I just said, there's no way they're letting everyone come into the ICU if there is hope, if all is well. Yeah, so 12th December, we turned off the machines. Okay. So, but because I had been there from the start, and I knew the hope and faith that I had, I just said, this can't be it. When they turn off the machine,
the person still more.
Yes, his body is warm because I touched him. His body is warm. the machine still shows. I'm standing there with my husband holding each other because we were the main caretakers. And the doctor, his friend who he had spoken to, is also standing there with us. And so because I tried to ask him, so what happens when you switch off? Will he fight? You know how when someone is there, they're going to fight. And he said, he's not here. There's no fight. I said no. So we stood and watched the blood pressure from 180 to 100 to 90 to 80 until it was all flat lines. And when it reached like 20, he said, Maria and David, don't traumatize yourselves anymore. Let's go. So we walked away. But even after I walked away, because when you walk away, they draw the curtain, and the mortuary guy comes in his green clothes. He's on phone. He's like, like for him, it's just
ordinary, normal
business as usual. I'm just like, this is how we are a statistic. But now this is me. We have racked up a bill, almost 60 million shillings. We have been reducing. Now they're saying he's dead. We have 20 million. So I have to get out of, okay, he has died. What next? We need to clear the bill. I'm making phone calls. My phone got money. It was blocked. There's a limit to how much you can have. It got blocked. It was a Saturday. It couldn't be cleared. Anyway, eventually we clear. And when they say go to the mortuary and clear him out, I reached and I said, but I need to first see him for me to believe that this has happened. But the father is breaking down, the mother is breaking down, the brothers, everybody.
How are you able to hold this together?
At that point, I think I looked around and I would expect the wife, she's falling apart. Everybody's falling apart. So I got into, okay, someone has to do this. And that journey. Because, okay, it's a Saturday afternoon, it's 2 p.m. They're picking him and taking him to A+. Who is going?
Has to be.
Yeah, but I just tell my husband, sit here. Just sit here. We drive, we go to IHK, we go to A+, and you start to bargain for coffins. Like, how is that a transaction? The guy takes you around, these ones are this much, these ones are this much. So now, at any point, if he feels like, okay, I can't do this, just like stay in the car. I'll do it. Because, of course, that whole process, we had to wait for people to arrive. So where is he being kept? Who is supervising? Where is the lumbe happening? Meetings are happening. And you know how usually, especially in very patriarchal homes, you're supposed to sit back. But when you see that there's need, things are not happening, you sit in the meeting and say, this is what we are going to do. Also because in the family, this is like a first close death. So I lost my father. So I know a bit of when a person dies, these are the things that are going to happen. The person I'm with has no idea this is the first.
Wow. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll just continue to understand how do you support your spouse in an element at a point like that. How else, minus being there and trying to handle whatever is needed, how else do you support your spouse through grief? Don't go away. I'm Fiona Mboa here at Church of Uganda Family TV with Ring Diaries. Welcome back. This is Ring Diaries with me, Fiona Mboa, and today we're talking about supporting your spouse through grief. And before the break, Mary was telling us about what happened with her brother-in-law and how she was able to stand up and assist any way that she could. And Mary, thank you for sharing that story, but and I like the fact that you're able to step up and, take charge and do what you could do. But after all this happened, how did you and David handle the situation?
So, again, like I said, I don't know if you've lost someone close to you. They all hurt, but the first one, grief is such a strange thing. You don't know, because you see how we were actively involved. The same thing happened throughout the burial and arrangements and stuff. But now when we came home, it hit differently. At every function we were at, there were many services. David was the MC, he was praying, he was being there for everybody else. Now we come home and he hits a slump because Isaac was a buffer between the parents and the siblings and everybody. Like, even his advice to me when I got married was, if that guy ever disturbs you, come to me. And he meant it. He would call and say, how are you? No, don't tell me those answers. How are you? How is that man treating you? Same thing would happen if David called Dad and they had a misunderstanding.
They would go to him.
They would go. If Daddy called and he felt there's something not happening, he would go to him. So, when someone leaves and there's such a humongous gap,
And it hits you after.
So he starts to go into, like, lock himself in dark rooms. Like, it's now we are home, he's supposed to be working. Then he'll say, I just want to sleep. He'll go and sleep. He was not sleeping actually, he's awake. Awake in the dark, it's 7, it's 8, it's 9, you come, you're like, you can't be like this. No, but I don't want to be with people. No, I'm turning on the light. I can't be like this. Do you want to see a grief counselor? He's like, no, I'll be fine. We are Ugandans. I actually suggested even for the children. He had children and the eldest was he's 14 now, so he was about 11. I'm like, do we do grief counseling for the kids? They're like, no. We are Ugandans.
Ugandans were supposed to.
They'll be fine. They'll figure it out. So he goes into a dark place, and I'm constantly talking. I'm saying, first of all, I don't think he would be, wherever he is, he's happy that this is how we're spending your time. Maybe we lost time on him, but there's people. And grief is the price we pay for love. The more you love, the harder the grief is going to hit you. So, but there's people he has left for us to channel this. Call the kids, check on them. Call the wife. Let's go visit. But she doesn't like to visit, so he's like, okay, I'll call. Once in a while, he's like, okay, let's go check on these people. We would go and visit. Then, but also, we took comfort in the fact that we were there.
You were there and you did the best.
We did everything, and I just kept saying, I'm sure he is proud of you. You stood up and did whatever. You're the last person he spoke to. He saw you, like you were there.
Full time.
So it will hurt, but we're going to be fine. And we're not fine, but strides have been made. And so time goes on, you get busy, and he is improving, because supporting someone who is going through, that's like grief leads to mental health issues, is difficult, but you don't give up. You must, the thing they need is the thing they don't want. They need to interact with people, but that's what they don't want. And this is why I think, like, African community had these things sorted for a reason. You didn't leave people who are grieving. There was a grieving period. Yes. You would stay for weeks. You'd be a support. But now when we go back into our homes, into our high walls, the grief kills you alone. So this is why I was like, you know what? We can go downhill from here, or we can go up. And also, like, everything happens for a reason, which is the worst thing to say to a person who has lost. So you can think it, but never say it.
Yes.
Never say it.
Because what's the reason?
Only God knows. And
Exactly.
while we are playing 1D chess, God is playing 4D chess.
Mm.
Everything only makes sense in retrospect. But death of a loved one will never make sense. So just ensure there's still a routine. Have you eaten? Have you bathed? Have you, like, the things you need? They are here. Let's cater to the basic human functions. Where your eye is clean, the windows are open, you've gotten some vitamin D, or walk out and see the sun. People who have the sun should never suffer from that dark depression. If you just walk out and see the sun. Let's take a walk. We used to live in the estate. We started to walk. Let's go. And but there are times when they will totally lock you out. And there you reduce it to, here's your food. Let's eat together. Let's go out, because what do you want to eat? Let's go out. When did you last speak? Because it was also like this, everyone was dealing their own way. I'm just like, first of all, don't blame yourself, because now people started to blame themselves.
Yes.
Of maybe if I hadn't left, maybe if I was there, but
if we had gone to this hospital,
yes,
we had done this.
Like, you can't blame yourself. There's nothing we can do. And it got better. Then we went for a memorial service 1 year later. And it got worse. Like, we came back and the pattern
went back to
as if we had just come back from the burial. And now this time, it took me time to notice, because I wasn't expecting it. The first time when you've just come back from burial, you're like, this person might need some support. Now, because it was just a memorial, we went, kids were happy, we had prayers, we came back. And now, so days later, I'm just like, but you're not okay. Again, that pattern of, don't open the windows, don't stand on the lights. I'm just going to be here. I just want to be with myself. I'm like, no, there's a problem. What is it? Can we talk about it? And so, because from experience, and yes, I will insist, it's called soft, persistent pressure. Don't over push, but keep pushing persistently. So I eventually said, going home maybe was a bad idea, because I just feel
brought back everything.
Yes, I just feel like he has just died. And now this time, no one is expecting me to step up, so it is eating me. It's like as if I've just buried him again. I'm just like, okay, do you want to talk to someone? He said no. We're Ugandans. But I think the trend continued. This time it was even harder to fight. But eventually he said, you know what, I think I'm going to talk to someone. Maybe there are things I need to understand and deal with. And he got therapy. Again, we are not at 100. But steps have been made and we are much, much better.
Mary, from your story, you're actually able to be involved.
Yes.
And most of us usually that this is a family, you're an in-law. That is not something that usually happens.
Actually, yes. One of my friends asked me, but what is it? These are just your in-laws. It's just like, but this is not for them. I know this person I am with, and I know how this affects him. So it's for him. But so also being there
was basically for your husband.
Yes, and also because some things were expected of him to do.
And he couldn't.
Yes. And as sure, if he would do them, but it would take so much effort for him to do. And these were things I could, for a moment, step out of the situation and do them as if on autopilot to ensure they happen. And I did them because how else?
So how did this affect your marriage?
I think that in the beginning it brought us closer because now like I had to check in actively. How are you? How do you feel today? Do you think about him? Do you dream about him? Because sometimes when you talk about it, It helps. Also, it validates if other people are feeling how you're feeling. It validates. But then, eventually, I started to, as if get like a resentment. I didn't feel thanked. Everyone was raving and going on, oh my God, you did that. And I didn't feel like he ever came out.
The person that you did this for.
Ever came out to say,
thank you.
Maybe thank you that I could hear. Because he said, oh my God, I said thank you at every time. And madam, like, I didn't feel appreciated. So, yeah, so then there was a fight of, after everything I've done for you, which is a thing that happens sometimes in marriage, as if you're lending someone, which it never should be. Yeah. But now we're good. And we are around that time. I'm walking on eggshells, slowly. We even said there's no going for memorial this year. Take a break and see what happens, because this is November. 12th November, no, December is around the corner, and I'm just like, I hope this time it will be better. But again, I'm watching, because
you have learned that you don't just...
it might come back, yes.
So I know most people usually draw back if something like that happens. Usually draw back from the family, but also from each other, because we grieve differently. Honestly speaking, we grieve differently. But now, for people who are going through maybe the same, what advice do you give them through such a season? Because this is part of marriage.
Yes, it is. They will come.
And all of us have gone through that, or those who haven't. The
seasons will come.
So how do you be how do you manage to step up the way you are able to step up? But also, how do they handle the relationship?
I think for me, it's a character issue. Even if you call me to a party, if the DJ, yes, if the DJ is not doing their job, later they'll come and ask you, but who is that girl? Why is she like this? To meet her to show you. Why has she taken over our function? So I just generally cannot sit back. If there's no leadership, I will come and do it.
But maybe especially here at your in-laws, wouldn't you first, I know character, but wouldn't you say, let me first let people take over and then
Yes, but if they're not, then what? If they're not. Because like I said, everyone he was such a pillar. So everyone was just, I think, dealing, and which I find is a flawed process in our grief, because you lose someone, your heart,
you're expected
to feed
people, take care of people.
You're expected to feed people, take care of everyone. Has this one eaten? And people will even be angry at you. Or you didn't give me food.
At the burial.
So someone has to do that. And if you're able to, do it. I called my sisters. 2 of my sisters, they came. I after like night 1, day 2, I called them. I said, I need help. And they came. And when they come, like, it's an army. If we are together, like, it's an army. We'll do it. We'll wash the dishes, we'll cook, we'll do whatever needs to be done. That day I said we need to hire people. Because now the people are becoming, we can't cook for everyone now. Yeah, so first of all, step up. The most important thing is how you support your person. But you have to know them. Know who they are. The thing that works for my spouse will not work for yours. Who is he? How does he act when hurt? How does he act when mad? And how do you react? What makes them feel loved? What makes them feel supported? And support.
So you need to know your person.
You need to know who you're dealing with.
And okay, that's the support I understand who they are and what speaks to them. Which other support can we give our spouses in such a time?
Presence. Because when this happens, you tend to want to be in the background. So if there's a thing, give them space. So protect them from other people. If there's a function that they don't have to be at, don't drag them there. if there's a task that you can take off your hands, handle for a while and allow them that space to be with themselves, because a lot of men heal in their box when they lock themselves up. Yes. So, but if you need them to consistently show up, they have to show up, because again, if they overstay in the box, they might never come out. But the unnecessary things, take them off their hands. Yes, and handle.
And for people who fear, like you fear that, first of all, I'm an in-law in this home, you know? And you know, culturally speaking, okay, I don't know what culture
I think in-laws from hell have reduced.
No, not from hell, but culturally speaking, for example, in Buganda, I may not be able to do that around
your father.
My father-in-law. Yes.
So my husband is a Msamia, and they have no buko. Actively, me and my father-in-law and I can, I don't know, shake hands, sit at a table and discuss things. So that helps. But also there are always elders, because like they would call meetings and then they would say, call my daughter, she's the one who knows everything that's happening. And of course it doesn't go well with some elders, but he was there. He's the one who's saying, come.
He's the one calling.
Yes, and also maybe I'll try to brief before. I'm not coming to that meeting, but this is where we are. This is where we are. Because I coordinated the program, I would know. This is where we are. I'm not coming into that meeting. Yeah.
Okay. So I think this also goes back to your relationship with the family.
Before, if you don't have a relationship, you can't just jump and start. Everyone's just going to say, like, what are you doing here? We know that you've never liked us. So it's so newly married. Got married in 2019. This is 2020.
This is 1 year.
Really, nothing could have gone. Okay, maybe I don't know, but nothing had gone wrong.
It can go wrong at inception.
Nothing had gone wrong. We were fine. We were on good terms. My mother-in-law and I are friends. So, actually, I think she's the one who has hit the most. But even her, Mommy, do you need a cup of tea? Your water is ready. This is what we are doing. Prayers, like you said, the patriarchy. Sometimes she would not even know what's going on, where we are in the program. So I'd go and sit with her and just, how are you?
To cut through. And then, okay, minus me as a spouse supporting, which other support can we give these people? Give our spouses?
I don't know. We are done.
Because one of the things that I noticed is there are things that you may not be able to help him with.
Yeah, but we need to know, for example, for our spouses, sometimes they don't listen. Actually, men don't listen. So you need to find people they respect and where they won't feel like you went and ratted me out to that person. Someone they hold in high regard and respect, and where you stop, that person can start from there. Like, because sometimes when I feel like, he's not fine, but he's locking me out. I called one of his friends and I said, look for your friend. I think that ABCD is happening. And I don't think it's a thing that I can solve as a spouse. It's a thing that you guys need to meet and talk about. So don't say I told you, just probe.
So you should be able to actually bring in reinforcement.
Reinforcement, yes.
Because sometimes you fear that what if I bring in reinforcement and it backfires
on you. I was trying to help. The intention behind what we do is very important.
I meant well.
Exhausting. I meant well.
Wow. This is interesting, Mary. And I know it's a very tough conversation and one that we do not want to have, but it's a reality on ground. When something happens like that to your spouse or even to yourself, how do we step out? How do we... Oh, okay, I think what I'm asking is, where did you get the energy there?
I think, first of all, personally, I'm not afraid of death. How will we go to heaven if we don't die? Are we going with bodies? The logical conclusion of life is death. Death is painful. But I had also I read quite a lot. And for my birthday is on 26th June and we got married on 22nd. My husband had gotten me a present of C.S. Lewis books. Now, C.S. Lewis is a philosopher, Christian writer, and he has a book called A Grief Observed. It's a small book like this, and it's a journal of him going through grief. He lost his wife, the love of his life, and he details what he was going through, what he thought. So the knowledge of this book was fresh in my head. I knew what to say, I knew what not to say. I knew.
I was wondering why you were so.
So I had just read The Grief Observed, and like right now, like I gift people that book. It's so hard to read when you're going through the grief. So I was glad I had read it before, because grief is going to happen. It's going to come to us, all of us. But how we handle determines whether we lose 10 years of our lives or we are able to say, God, you give and take away.
Even when we say it, we don't mean
May your name be glorified. Yeah, may we mean it someday.
May we mean it. That is actually the prayer. May we mean it. Sometimes you go through the process
and it doesn't make sense. But also we are afraid to fight with God. He can take it. He's good. Be angry, shout, cry. He can take
Ask
it.
him the question.
Yes. But also in that book he says, we like to focus on the why, but the why is not important.
It's not important.
Because what if God actually told you why it happened?
And then what?
What if he says you are treating him badly, so I took it? Then what?
Oh, that's another trouble.
Yes. So sometimes we are so focused on the why, but the why doesn't matter. Go through it, pick the lessons, cry when you need to, and
Scream,
life is a
shout
journey.
if you need to.
If you need to. There are times when I can't pray. That's the other thing. My husband could not pray at all. And I would just pray.
For both of you.
Yeah, for both of us. There's power in intercessory prayer.
Yes.
So I'm just like, that is your person. You
You
found
know
him.
what he's
You
doing.
know what's happening. Deal with it.
Everyone should get a wife like me. Anyway, thank you very much.
I can't have it.
Yeah. Behind this, there must be another. Oh, God. But thank you very much for sharing your story and for the lessons. I know our viewers have learned a lesson or two from this. But I just want you to give them some concluding remarks about supporting your spouse through grief. What you could have left out, or something they must note as we come to a conclusion.
First of all, I make the assumption that we are all Christians.
Yes, we are.
As the people who watch this show. So, where are we anchored? If you are anchored in the Lord, you can handle. Because we don't carry our burdens for ourselves. His yoke is lighter. Cast all your cares upon him, for he cares. Even in the grave, he was God. You cannot say that he doesn't know grief. He has experienced it. You can't say Jesus doesn't know pain. He went through it. So when you go through it, even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil. The time to read scripture is not
that moment.
It
is now.
It is now, such that you have something to hold on to when that time comes. The other thing is, guys, mental health is real.
Yeah.
There are some things we can't manage. Seek help. Professional help.
Stop being Uganda.
Stop being Ugandans. Grief counseling is a thing. It will work. Go talk to someone. Also, we've become busy. You might want your spouse to be what I was, and they are working in Nakapiri. You come back from the burial and they are gone. This needs presence. So maybe don't even hang this on their heads that this is what they need to do. Speak to someone. Those people still exist. We are lucky. There are those that were for pain, but there are people around us Pick one and share the pain. When pain is shared, I think it also loses its power.
That's true. We suffer most when we suffer
When we keep silent.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mary,
So,
for sharing this. And we continue to pray that healing shall keep coming to the whole family. Amen. But thank you also for being a good. It takes strength and energy and good way. And for our viewers out there, grief is part of us. I know these are very conversations I personally don't like to have. But these are conversations that are in our lives and in our marriages. Maybe you've not gone through it. I've gone through it, and I know people have gone through it. And Mary has shared her story. But how do you support your spouse through the grieving period? Do you become an extra burden he has to carry, or you one that actually helps lessen the load? So, thank you very much for watching. But as Mary has said, keep praying, keep reading your scriptures. That for a day like that, you'll be able to stand on those promises of God. But above all, speak to someone. Does not make you any less Ugandan if you speak to someone. Help is there. There's a lot of help out there. Let us utilize it. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Fiona Mbowa here at Church of Uganda Family TV with Bring Diaries.